Every single day, millions of dollars disappear, not because of hackers, but because ordinary people fall for scams designed to manipulate human psychology. We tend to imagine cybercrime as a battle of high-tech code, where shadowy figures in hoodies bypass massive firewalls. But the modern reality is far more unsettling. The vast majority of financial theft today requires the victim's active, if unintentional, cooperation. Modern scammers operate like professional illusionists, crafting scenarios designed to bypass human logic entirely. They don't need to break into your computer if they can convince you to let them in. By using carefully scripted narratives, they create a false reality where the safest thing you can do is exactly what they want you to do. They understand that while software can be patched and updated, the vulnerabilities in human biology remain largely the same as they were 1,000 years ago. This creates a central paradox that defines the modern era of fraud. Highly intelligent, financially literate people regularly fall for these traps. We often assume that education or professional success provides a natural immunity to deception. However, financial intelligence relies on the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for calculation and long-term planning. Scammers avoid this area entirely, aiming for the older, more primal regions of the brain where our raw emotions live. When you are operating in a state of sudden fear or extreme excitement, your IQ becomes irrelevant. Criminals have realized that attacking a device is difficult, but attacking a person is surprisingly easy. A bank's server might have layers of state-of-the-art encryption, but the person holding the phone is governed by predictable cognitive biases. Scammers have stopped trying to hack our devices because it is far easier to hack our biology. They aren't looking for a software bug, they are looking for a human one. To understand why these traps are so effective, we have to look at the exploit. This is the specific cognitive bias a scammer triggers to short-circuit our risk assessment. Normally, your brain evaluates a financial decision through a slow, logical process. The exploit creates a high-speed bypass, routing information directly to the amygdala, the brain's emotional center. This effectively shuts down your ability to apply critical thinking, replacing logic with a direct, impulsive response. These triggers, authority bias, FOMO, and scarcity, are not just suggestions, they are biological overrides. When you perceive a message as coming from an authority figure, your brain defaults to a state of compliance. When you fear missing out on a rare opportunity, your brain fixates on the potential gain while ignoring the potential risk. Scarcity, or the feeling that an offer will expire in minutes, activates a loss prevention panic. These triggers are designed to keep you in a reactive state, making it nearly impossible to pause and question the validity of the situation. Learning to identify these emotional triggers adds a necessary layer of defense against the 5 most dangerous financial traps in the modern world. If you can recognize the moment your brain is being pushed into a reactive state, you can begin to dismantle the illusion before the money is gone. We begin with the most famous of all financial traps, the Ponzi scheme. Despite being over a century old, the mechanics remain remarkably consistent. A fraudster promises unusually high, consistent returns to attract an initial group of investors. However, there is no underlying business or asset. The scheme survives by using the capital from new participants to pay out dividends to early investors. As long as a wider tier of new money keeps flowing in at the bottom, the illusion of a profitable investment pool remains intact. The case of Bernie Madoff illustrates how social proof and elite exclusivity can keep a Ponzi scheme running for decades. Madoff didn't just offer returns, he offered a sense of belonging to an exclusive club. By turning away potential clients and maintaining an aura of prestige, he triggered a powerful bias. If the most successful people in the world trust him, why shouldn't I? This illusion of legitimacy was so strong that it blinded regulators and investors alike to the fact that his returns were mathematically impossible. In the digital age, this fraud has evolved into online investment and crypto scams. Digital pump and dumps and rug pulls are the high-speed evolution of the Ponzi model. A scammer launches a new cryptocurrency token, artificially inflates its price through social media hype, and then abruptly sells their massive holdings once retail investors have driven the price up. The chart plummets in seconds, leaving thousands of people holding worthless digital assets while the creators disappear with the liquidity. These schemes rely on fake influencers and guaranteed profit promises to weaponize FOMO. They show you a lifestyle you want, luxury cars, private jets, and early retirement, and tell you that it's all within reach if you just act now. By flooding social media with fabricated success stories, they convince the brain that the risk of losing money is smaller than the risk of being left behind. When the brain's greed center is fully activated, it fundamentally misinterprets data. Massive red flags, like anonymous founders or lack of a clear business model, are no longer seen as risks. Instead, the mind rebrands them as the secret or innovative details of a rare, time-sensitive opportunity. While greed pulls us toward a trap, fear pushes us into one. Scam number 3 involves phishing and banking fraud, a tactic that relies on creating a sudden, high-stakes crisis. Criminals utilize authority bias by aggressively impersonating entities that demand our trust, such as the IRS, bank fraud departments, or law enforcement. By appearing as a police officer or a bank official, they bypass your natural skepticism. When a person believes they are speaking to someone with the power to arrest them or freeze their accounts, their brain shifts from a critical state to a compliant one. This compliance is tested in the one-time password or OTP scam. The criminal creates a fabricated, unauthorized charge and tells the victim they must provide a security code to stop the transaction. In reality, the scammer is trying to log into the victim's account and needs that code to bypass security. By reading the code aloud, the victim provides the final authorization the criminal needs to drain the account. The sudden injection of fear triggers a biological fight-or-flight response. In this state, your brain is looking for the quickest way to end the perceived threat. Victims often hand over their own security keys and sensitive personal information, not because they are gullible, but because they are in a state of manufactured panic and simply want the crisis to stop. Our fourth category is the most predatory: loan and job scams. These operate through advance fee fraud, where the victim is promised a significant benefit in exchange for a small, immediate payment. These criminals use the scarcity effect to target individuals who are already experiencing severe financial stress. They offer high-paying remote jobs or guaranteed loans with no credit checks. To someone in a desperate situation, these offers look like a rare, fleeting chance to escape their debt or unemployment. The trap is set when the victim is told they must pay a processing fee or an insurance premium to facilitate the larger transfer. Because the promised reward is so life-changing, the victim rationalizes sending $500 to trigger the larger payout. Once that first fee is paid, the scammer invents new hurdles, extracting as much money as possible before disappearing. These specific scams weaponize the victim's own hope, turning a desperate search for a lifeline into a financial anchor. By focusing entirely on the relief the money will bring, the victim loses the ability to see that the fee is the only real part of the transaction. Scam number 5 is the romance and social media scam, perhaps the most devastating psychological operation of all. Unlike a quick bank fraud call, these scams can involve months of patient grooming and complex identity fabrication. The scammer builds a deep emotional connection with the victim, often posing as someone in a respectable but distant profession, like a doctor or a military officer. Eventually, the scammer introduces a sudden emergency. They might claim they've been in a car accident, have a sudden legal bill, or need help with a business investment. Because they have built such intense trust, their request for untraceable funds, like gift cards or cryptocurrency, feels like a legitimate appeal for help from a loved one. Victims often drain their life savings, not because they are unaware of the risks, but because emotional manipulation has completely overridden their logical suspicion. The brain's attachment to the person is so strong that questioning the request feels like a betrayal of the relationship. Romance scams exploit a deep, innate desire for connection and empathy, which is why they remain so difficult to stop. The victim is often so emotionally invested in the persona that they will ignore warnings from their own bank and family, choosing to believe in the illusion of intimacy over the reality of the fraud. Despite targeting different emotions, all 5 of these scams share the exact same structural DNA. They all rely on moving you away from your logical center and into an emotional, reactive state. These are the universal red flags: the demand for total secrecy, the promise of guaranteed returns with no risk, and the intense pressure to make an immediate upfront payment. If a situation combines any of these factors, the probability of it being a scam is near 100%. You must build your own technical defenses, verify identities independently by calling official numbers, enable two-factor authentication on all accounts, and never, under any circumstances, share an OTP or password with someone who calls you. But the strongest defense is a psychological one: the mandatory 24-hour cooling-off period. Scammers rely on manufactured urgency to keep you in a reactive state. By simply refusing to send money for 24 hours, you allow the emotional spike to subside and your logical brain to regain control. The world's most dangerous scam doesn't begin with technology. It begins with manipulating human emotions. The more informed you are, the harder you become to fool. An informed mind is the only firewall that never needs an update.